One thing I want to do is expose two birds with one stone. Reason why I say that is because Halloween is about to end, and I still want to release content talking about how Halloween is not a Christian custom. It's not a Christian tradition. It's not something that anybody, Christian or non-Christian, should be celebrating. Because once I show you the information about the truth behind this holiday, you're going to be able to see the evil side of this holiday and know that it has no Christian value, no Christian tradition, or anything that you can learn as far as it when it pertains to Jesus Christ and the Holy Bible. There's nothing that you can get out of Halloween as far as it comes to righteousness. Only unrighteousness, evilness, ghosts, goblins, demons dressing up as all this other nonsense. It's not in the Bible.
Halloween is a Christian feast. It is the eve of All Holies, or All Hallow. The word for holy is hallow, so if you remember in the Our Father, hallowed be thy name. So the evening before that, like Christmas Eve, All Hallows Eve becomes Halloween. That's it. It's not a pagan day. Nevertheless, to say that these days is to court hostility from two rival factions. On the one hand, neo-pagans, people who imagine themselves as the heirs to the ancient Druids and this Celtic religion that they think existed before Christianity, and they're trying to restore it. And they've tried to take Halloween as their rightful kind of lineage. Weirder are that there's a bunch of evangelical Christians, mostly in the US, who are convinced that it's sinful to celebrate Halloween because they also think Halloween is of pagan, not Christian origin. They think it's satanic and idolatrous and dishonoring to God.
All right, so this is the word hallow, people. Honor as holy. That's what it means, simply. Or to make holy or consecrate. So what you're trying to say is God hallowed Halloween. He made that day a hallowed or sanctified day. No, he didn't. Nor did he make this day holy or consecrated. So to use that word to make it seem like Halloween, hallowed, no. Don't try to make the two seem like they're similar, because they're not. Now, I tell people this all the time. I study the occult. I study Freemasonry. I'm going to go to this book right here, and I'm going to talk about the Druids. Now, this is what it says about the Druids, people. We heard in 1928 of a Druid celebration at Stonehenge. Shortly afterwards, we read of another, an initiation ceremony at Penzance, where 12 bards of Britain, including Sir Arthur Quiller Couch, the author, were initiated by the Archdruid of Wales into a sect revived after a lapse of 2,000 years. So as you can see, some high people within that society or within that country joining this Druid group. Some of us might prefer the lapse to have continued, and as the subject of the Druid mysteries is here relevant, we quote verbatim the chapter entitled The Druids from Mr. Charles William Heckethorn's interesting book, Secret Societies of All Ages and Countries. Now it says this: the secret doctrines of the Druids were much the same as those of the Gymnosophists, if I'm saying that correctly. And then also it says, and Brahmins of India, the Magi of Persia, the priest of Egypt, and of all other priests of antiquity. So as we can see, the Druids are no different from the Africans in Egypt, from the people who are in the Middle East and Persia. They're no different from the people who practice the Brahmanism, which is in India, and whatever this thing is right here. But as we can see, the people who practice stuff in Europe are the same as these occult people around the world. There is no difference. Now it says this: like them, they had two sects of religious doctrines, exoteric and esoteric. By the way, exoteric simply means information that is for the goyim, the public, the catacomb, but the esoteric is only kept for a select few. So not everybody knows the esoteric doctrine. Their rites were practiced in Britain and Gaul, though they were brought to a much greater perfection in the former country, where the Isles of Anglesey, if I'm saying that correctly, was considered their chief seat. The word Druid is generally supposed to be derived from whatever that is supposed to be, an oak, which tree was particularly sacred among them, though its etymology may also be found in the Gallic word Judah, if I'm saying that correctly, a wise man or a magician. So they were magicians, simply as that. They practiced magic. The system of the Druidism embraced every religious and philosophical pursuit then known in these islands, The rites bore an undoubted reference to astronomical facts. Their chief deities are reducible to two, a male and a female, the Great Father and Mother, Hu and Suridwin, if I'm saying that correctly, distinguished by the same characteristics as belong to Osiris and Isis, Bacchus and Ceres, or any other supreme god and goddess representing the two principles of all being. So as we can see, the Druids simply practiced paganism. Sun worship, moon worship. Same thing that everybody else was doing across the planet. Except for your Hebrew Israelites who worship the one true God, who has no female principle. Now right here is talking about what a Druid candidate will have to go through. The candidate was placed in the pados bed or coffin. So the candidate is put inside of a coffin. That same thing happens to the people like Yale, who was in the Skull and Bones. People like George W. Bush. The candidate was first placed in the pados bed or coffin, where his symbolical death represented the death of Hu, or the sun, and his restoration in the third degree symbolized the resurrection of the sun. He had to undergo trials and tests of courage similar to those practiced in the mysteries of other countries. So the same other countries, whether it's Europe, Africa, Asia, I don't care where you're at. If you was practicing some type of sun worship, moon worship, you 9 times out of 10 had a rite. And also, if not a rite, you had degrees you had to go through in order to receive this doctrine. It says the Druids taught the doctrine of one supreme being, a future state of rewards and punishments. To anybody else, it sounds like, a little bit similar to Christianity, but no, it doesn't. The immortality of the soul and a metaphysiosis. Don't know what that is, but look here. I don't agree with any of their teachings. I might get banned if I talk about this part, so I'm not, because it's talking about human and that right there. But we'll go to the next page. But this is very interesting for the Freemasons out there, though. But though their dominion was thus destroyed, many of their religious practices continued much longer. And so late as the 11th century, in the reign of Canute, it was necessary to prevent the people to worship the sun, moon, fires, etc. Certainly many of the practices of the Druids are still adhered to in Freemasonry. And some writers on this order endeavor to show that it was established soon after the Edict of Canute, and that as thereby the Druidical worship was prohibited in toto, the strongest oaths were required to bind the initiated to secrecy. There is no mystery as to the existence in Berlin of the Druider Nordum, whatever that word is, today. It is a branch of Freemasonry, and its sovereign Grand Master, until late, was... So as we can see, a group of Druids did exist, and then also he talked about the Celtics. They did exist, so it's not some type of mythological stuff. So we're not talking about mythological people and their practices, because this stuff is dated within occult books and then also their writings and also other people's writings. So that means everybody just can't be making this stuff up. Somebody got to have a little bit of truth to it. But like I said, it goes much deeper and is very sinister as well. By the way, you can look up this man. His name was William Churchill, and he was around maybe like 50 years ago or something like that, within that time frame. But the point I'm getting at here is this. Dude was a Druid, and he was a high person within the U.S. It's a known fact because it's a picture of him with the Druids. I honestly feel like dude is not really doing that much studying and observation, because if he was, there's information out there you can find that these people did exist. The Celtics did exist. They did have certain religious practices and certain rites and secret doctrines. But what you're about to find out is that the Druids and the Celtics did practice a form of Halloween. And this man ain't telling y'all. This ain't no Christian holiday.